Hey everybody, you know some cities require buildings to follow strict color schemes, creating a striking visual identity. So we're counting down 15 amazing cities with color-coded buildings. Let's start with number 15, Santorini in Greece. Santorini, Greece. It stands out among the many islands for its striking whitewashed buildings adorned with blue domes, doors, and accents. This iconic color scheme is instantly recognizable worldwide. It's not merely an aesthetic choice, but it's deeply tied to the island's culture, history, geography, and even practical needs. The practice of whitewashing buildings originated as a response to the harsh Mediterranean climate. Constructed from locally sourced dark volcanic rock, homes initially absorbed the region's intense sunlight, making interiors uncomfortably hot. Whitewashing using lime-based paint became a simple and effective solution. Lime not only reflected sunlight, keeping interiors cooler, but it also acted as a disinfectant, which particularly crucial during outbreaks of diseases such as the cholera epidemic in the late 1930s. Beyond the practicality, though, these colors are steeped in cultural symbolism. Blue and white mirrors the hues of the Greek flag, symbolizing national pride and unity. The blue domes that crown many of Santorini's churches are not just decorative, but serve as visual representations of heaven. These domes, often atop buildings with architectural roots in Cycladic tradition, feature smooth lines, rounded corners, and small windows designed to withstand strong Aegean winds and earthquakes. Santorini's geography did play a role in shaping its unique aesthetic too. Perched along the rim of a caldera formed by a massive volcanic eruption around 3,600 years ago, this island's villages cascade down cliffs, creating a stunning display of architecture and landscape. During the military dictatorship in Greece from 1967 to 74, the blue and white color scheme became mandatory, further cementing its place in the island's identity. The regime believed that these colors symbolized Greek nationalism and patriotism. Although the mandate is no longer in effect, the colors persist as a beloved tradition and a major draw for tourism. Number 14. Chefchaouen, Morocco. Chefchaouen in Morocco is often referred to as the Blue Pearl. It's a striking town in the Rif Mountains known for its buildings painted in countless shades of blue. The origins of this distinctive color scheme are intertwined with the region's culture, history, and practical realities, making the city a unique destination and a subject of some fascination. The blue coloring is widely believed to have been introduced by Jewish settlers. In Jewish tradition, the color blue symbolizes the sky, which in turn reminds believers of heaven and a connection to God. This association with spirituality led to the use of blue in various aspects of Jewish life, including fabrics and religious items like prayer mats. Over time, the blue spread beyond the neighborhood, transforming the entire Medina into a sea of blue hues. It's said that the color may deter mosquitoes, as it creates the illusion of water, which mosquitoes tend to avoid. Others believe the blue keeps homes cooler in the warmer months, reflecting sunlight and helping to mitigate the heat of the arid mountain climate. Geography and environment also play a role in their unique aesthetic. The town is situated in a region with limited water, and the color blue is said sometimes to represent the nearby Ras El Ma waterfall, which supplies the town with water. The cascading shades of blue are thought by some to echo the importance of water in sustaining the community in otherwise rugged and arid mountains. The history of Chefchaouen itself adds to the richness of its story. Founded in 1471, the town was initially established as a fortress to defend against Portuguese invasions. Over the centuries, it evolved into a vibrant community with a blend of Berber, Arab, and Jewish influences. The blue walls that now define its character are a reflection of that cultural mosaic, shaped by historical events and local traditions. While the exact reasons for the blue buildings does remain a subject of debate, the combination of spiritual, practical, and aesthetic considerations provides a compelling explanation. Number 13. Willemstad, Curacao. Willemstad, the capital of Curacao, is known for its vibrant pastel buildings, a defining feature that makes it one of the most visually striking cities in the Caribbean. The colorful architecture, deeply rooted in the city's history, was first mandated in 1817 by a governor who believed the blinding glare from whitewashed buildings caused eye strain. Now, whether that decree was driven by genuine health concerns or the governor's alleged ties to a local paint factory, it reshaped the city's aesthetic, creating a legacy of color that continues to thrive. The city's architecture reflects its colonial past, with Dutch-style gables and narrow facades adapted to the tropical climate. Willemstad's historic quarters, Punda, Ortobana, Pietramai, and Charlou, showcase that unique blend. The buildings are painted in a palette of yellows, blues, greens, pinks, and oranges, with each shade telling a story. While the original law banned white paint, the colorful trend became a cultural symbol, representing vibrancy and resilience in a region shaped by colonization, trade, and diverse cultural influences. The city's bright hues also serve some practical purposes. The warm Caribbean climate demands creative ways to maintain comfort, and these pastel shades help reflect sunlight, keeping buildings cooler. The culture of Willemstad is another factor behind its colorful identity. The city's population includes descendants from African slaves, Sephardic Jews, and European settlers, all of whom contributed to its cultural landscape. The Curacao Synagogue, the oldest surviving synagogue in the Americas, stands as an example of this blend of influences, its understated facade contrasting with the city's more vibrant buildings. Willemstad's colors have become a symbol of pride and an attraction for visitors. In 1997, its historic center was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, highlighting its cultural significance. The city continues to embrace its colorful legacy, with restoration efforts ensuring that vibrant facades remain intact. The efforts have not only preserved the city's historical charm, but also revitalized neighborhoods, turning Willemstad into a hub for art, tourism, and cultural expression. Number 12. Burano, Italy. The island of Burano, located in the Venetian lagoon of Italy, is one of the most striking places in the world. Its distinctive feature lies in the brightly painted homes that line its canals and streets. Each house sports a unique, bold color, creating a patchwork of vibrant hues that draw visitors from around the world. The story of Burano's painted houses dates back to its history as a fishing community. Fishermen, navigating through the dense fog that often blanketed the lagoon, needed a way to identify their homes upon return. Painting houses in vivid, contrasting colors served as a practical solution, allowing them to locate their residences even in poor visibility. Another version of the story suggests that fishermen, known for their fondness for wine, would occasionally find themselves disoriented after a night at the tavern. The brightly colored homes, paired with a strip of matching fabric tied to their arms by their wives, ensured they could be identified and guided home. Maintaining this colorful tradition isn't a matter of personal preference for homeowners. The colors of the houses are regulated by the local council, which does provide an approved palette for painting. Any changes to a house's color must be formally requested and authorized, ensuring that the harmonious yet distinct pattern of hues remain intact. Houses are repainted every 2 years, keeping the island's appearance consistently fresh and vibrant. Burano's colorful identity is complemented by its culture as a center for lace making. During the Renaissance, the island gained fame for its intricate lacework, which brought wealth and renown to the small community. The combination of artistry and maritime life shaped Burano's dual reputation for craft and color. Today, visitors can explore this heritage at the Museum of Lace, which showcases the history and techniques of this meticulous art form. Number 11. Izamal, Mexico. Izamal, often referred to as La Ciudad Amarilla, or the Yellow City, is a small town in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, located about 44 miles east of Mérida. Its defining feature is the striking yellow and white color scheme that dominates almost every building. This distinct aesthetic sets it apart, giving it a warm, golden glow that's fascinated visitors and locals alike for decades. The reason behind this vibrant tradition, however, is steeped both in historical ambiguity and cultural symbolism. The exact origins of the yellow buildings remains unclear, but one common story attributes the color scheme to the 1993 visit of Pope John Paul II, when the town was spruced up to welcome the pontiff. However, locals and historians argue that the tradition predates that papal visit. The color is often described as a decision by local authorities and residents to unify the town's appearance. Whatever the original reason, the consistent use of yellow has become an integral part of Izamal's identity. The town has long been a site of religious devotion, first as a hub of pre-Columbian Maya worship and later as a center of Catholic veneration. The convent of San Antonio de Padua, one of the largest church complexes in the America, is painted in the same golden hue, further reinforcing the spiritual and communal ties to the color. But Izamal's history as a settlement predates that colonial transformation. It was once a major Maya city, covering a significant area and featuring grand pyramids and raised causeways. Some of these ancient structures are still visible today, standing alongside the colonial-era buildings, and the town's layered history blending Maya and Spanish influences is echoed in its architecture and color palette. In 2002, Izamal was designated a Pueblo Mágico, or Magic Town, by Mexico's Tourism Board. That recognition highlights the town's unique heritage, including the architecture, traditions, and role as a pilgrimage site. The community's commitment to preserving its beautiful aesthetic is evident in the rules governing the repainting of buildings, ensuring that the yellow and white tradition remains intact. Number 10. Shibam in Yemen. Shibam is often referred to as the Manhattan of the desert. It's a striking example of a city defined by its architecture. Located in central Yemen, this small walled town has captivated the world with its mud brick towers, painted in soft, sandy tones that blend in seamlessly with the desert landscape. Their buildings, some reaching heights of up to 100 feet, has earned the town a place on the UNESCO World Heritage List and a reputation as one of the earliest examples of vertical urban planning. The origins of Shibam's mud brick towers date back to the 16th century, when a catastrophic flood destroyed much of the existing settlement. To rebuild, the town's residents adopted a unique approach that combined practicality with protection. The constructed multi-story tower houses, closely packed together, form a defensive barrier against attacks by Bedouin tribes. Now, this dense urban layout, arranged on a grid of narrow streets, maximized the space within the protective walls while enabling efficient access to resources and shelter. The soft, sandy tones of the buildings are more than just visually striking. They are deeply tied to the region's traditions. Made from locally sourced mud, the bricks are sun-dried and coated with layers of mud plaster. This is a process that has to be repeated regularly to counteract any erosion from wind and rain. The choice of color and material is a direct response to the challenges of living in the desert, where temperatures here fluctuate dramatically. Culturally, the architecture of Shibam reflects the adaptability of the people. The tower houses with their vertical design accommodate extended families within a single structure, each floor dedicated to a specific purpose. The lower floors typically house livestock and storage, while the upper floors serve as living quarters. The tradition of maintaining the buildings through regular application of mud plaster has fostered a strong sense of community here, and its location at the crossroads of historic trade routes also shaped its identity. In its heyday, the town was a critical stop for merchants for trading spices, frankincense, and other goods between Asia, Africa, and Europe. But the challenges faced by Shibam are much a part of its story as its architecture. The mud brick buildings are vulnerable to natural disasters, such as the floods of 2008, which caused significant damage to the town. Efforts to preserve them have been ongoing, but its remote location and economic difficulties do pose an obstacle to large-scale restorations. The community's reliance on traditional building methods does ensure that the city retains its authenticity, but it also requires constant vigilance to combat the forces of nature and time. Number 9. Longyearbyen, Norway. Longyearbyen is one of the most striking settlements in the Arctic, with its vibrant, color-coded buildings standing out against a stark, snow-covered landscape. It's located on the island of Spitsbergen in the Svalbard archipelago. It is the northernmost settlement of its size, home to just over 2,000 people. The tradition of painting buildings in bold colors, reds, yellows, blues, and greens, has practical roots. Longyearbyen experiences extreme Arctic conditions, including long polar nights where the sun doesn't rise for months. These vivid colors help offset the psychological effects of living in near-perpetual darkness. This approach is often referred to as color therapy. It's not unique to Longyearbyen, but is especially pronounced there due to the isolation and climate. When Longyearbyen was established as a mining town in 1906 by the Arctic Coal Company, functionality was the primary purpose. But over time, the use of bold colors became a way to create a visual identity in a place where much of the architecture is otherwise uniform. Geography and weather, of course, have further influenced these choices. The Arctic landscape is dominated by whites, grays, and browns, with the tundra offering little natural greenery for most of the year. The wooden structures are painted with weather-resistant material that can withstand the extreme cold, snow, and wind, ensuring they remain functional while also adding to the aesthetic. The town was originally a company settlement centered around coal mining, but it's evolved into a hub for tourism, research, and Arctic exploration. Its remote location and high turnover rate, though most residents stay for only a few years, create a transient atmosphere, but the colorful buildings provide a sense of continuity and belonging for those who pass through. The colors here play a practical role in navigation. During winter storms, visibility can drop dramatically, and the distinct hues make it easy to identify homes and public buildings. But beyond their practical purposes, the bright buildings of this Arctic town symbolize resilience in the face of challenging conditions. While the landscape of Svalbard is one of the most remote and inhospitable on the planet, the colors of Longyearbyen provide warmth and vitality to a place defined by its isolation and extremes. Number 8. St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. St. John's, Newfoundland in Canada stands out as a city unlike any other in North America, thanks to its iconic brightly painted row houses known as Jelly Bean Row. These vibrant homes, painted in a spectrum of reds, blues, greens, and yellows, aren't just a charming visual feature, but also a deep-rooted cultural tradition. Historically, St. John's was a practical and industrious fishing outpost for European settlers. Early buildings reflected the region's utilitarian needs, constructed from wood and left in natural or muted tones. The Great Fire of 1892, which devastated much of the city, prompted a wave of reconstruction, leading to the wooden, tightly packed row houses that still dominate the downtown area. For much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, the city's homes were painted in dark, practical colors like green, brown, and gray. And this choice was largely dictated by coal soot, a byproduct of heating and industry, which would quickly stain the lighter colors. The transformation to today's dazzling palette began in the 1970s, when coal was phased out and residents were no longer restricted by the need for dark, soot-resistant paint. The adoption of the brighter colors served as a dual purpose. Now, practically, it made the homes more visible throughout the city's frequent fog, a necessity for sailors returning from long voyages at sea. Folklore suggests that families extended the practice to their fishing sheds, boats, and other structures, creating an unintentional branding system within the fishing communities. Painting homes in lively hues brought brightness and warmth to the community, even in the face of dreary conditions. This tradition grew into an unspoken agreement among neighbors, resulting in streets of homes that complement rather than clash. Despite the freedom to choose any color, residents often opt for tones that harmonize with their neighbors' choices, creating an unstructured yet cohesive aesthetic, unique to St. John's. Jelly Bean Row has also become a defining feature of the city's identity, celebrated in art, tourism, and local pride. Names like Point Armor Red and Sugar Cube White echo the landscape and the culture, connecting the modern city to its past. The frequent fog here, while a challenge, only heightens the contrast, making the colors appear even more vivid against a backdrop of gray skies and mist. Moving on to number 7, La Boca, Buenos Aires. La Boca, one of the most iconic neighborhoods in Buenos Aires, is a true reflection of the city's vibrant spirit. Famous for its colorful buildings, especially along the famous Caminito Street, La Boca stands out as one of the coolest neighborhoods with color-coded structures. The bold and mismatched hues of its houses tell a story of hardship, creativity, and even cultural fusion, making it a place rich in both history and artistic expression. Originally a shipyard area, La Boca's story begins in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when waves of European immigrants, particularly from the Italian region of Liguria, settled there. These immigrants were mostly dock workers, many of whom lived in extreme poverty. They built their homes from materials they could scavenge, often using cast-off planks of wood and metal sheeting from the shipyards. But it wasn't just the materials they had on hand that made the neighborhood distinctive, it was the way that they painted their homes. Lacking enough of any one color, these workers painted their homes with leftover ship paints. This resulted in an eclectic patchwork of vibrant colors, which became a defining characteristic of the neighborhood. This unique color scheme wasn't just born out of necessity. It was influenced by the surroundings and the climate of La Boca. Located at the mouth of the Riachuelo River, the neighborhood was exposed to the harsh realities of shipbuilding and industrial life. For years, La Boca was a place of grime and decay, with coal soot from the factories and shipyards darkening the area. As the port fell into decline and industrial practices shifted, La Boca's fortunes changed. the area slowly started to be revitalized, and the colorful houses became a symbol of that transformation. In the 1950s, local artist Benito Martin began to revitalize the area by painting old homes in the same colorful patchwork style that had been used by the original settlers. Martin, who had grown up in La Boca, had a deep emotional connection to the neighborhood and saw the potential for it to become a hub of culture. His depictions of La Boca's dockside life, along with his colorful restoration efforts, helped to turn the area into a cultural haven. His work added to the artistic vibrancy of the neighborhood, and it helped foster a sense of identity and pride among its residents. The colorful facades reflect the cultural blend that defines Buenos Aires itself, with influences from the Italian immigrants, African heritage, and indigenous Argentine roots. This mixture is evident not just in the architecture, but in the tango music and dance that La Boca helped to nurture. The colorful homes of La Boca, they provide a backdrop to one of the most iconic and enduring cultural symbols of Argentina. Number 6. Guanajuato, Mexico. Guanajuato stands as one of the most striking cities, where color-coded buildings stretch across the hillsides, adding some vibrancy to the city's unique geographical landscape. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, Guanajuato's charming hillside neighborhoods are dotted with homes painted in a dazzling array of colors, creating a patchwork of hues that reflect the lively spirit of the region. The tradition of painting buildings in vibrant colors can be traced back to the 18th century, during the height of the silver mining boom. As wealth from the mines flowed into the region, the Spanish and other settlers built large mansions and churches, many of which were influenced by the Baroque architectural style. Over time, however, the buildings on the hillsides were constructed by local miners and their families who had less access to the grandiose materials used in the city center. In an effort to make their homes more recognizable and personal, they painted them with leftover paint from the mines or with whatever they could acquire. These colorful hues became a symbol of the working class's resilience, offering a contrast to the more somber traditional facades of wealthier areas. The colors aren't just decorative, they do tie into the city's lively artistic heritage. Guanajuato has long been a center for the arts. The lively streets echo the region's connection to folklore and celebrations, such as the Festival Internacional Sarantino, one of the most important cultural festivals in Latin America. The colors bring the city to life, transforming it into an open-air gallery where culture and history will intertwine. The steep hillsides and narrow alleys are visually enhanced by the contrast of these brightly colored homes against the natural greenery and rocky slopes. Additionally, the intense sun, especially during the dry season, has likely contributed to the preference for bright, reflective colors that help keep buildings cool in the heat. The colors are, in some ways, a response to the landscape, adding warmth and personality to a region that could otherwise be harsh and barren. Fun fact about the city's colorful buildings include the inspiration it provided for the Disney movie Coco. The animators for the film, which explores Mexico's Day of the Dead traditions, drew heavily from Guanajuato's colorful streets and festive atmosphere. The city's aesthetic and culture became a key influence in creating the film's visual style, helping to bring the city's unique beauty to a global audience. Number 5. Gamcheon Culture Village in South Korea. Located in the steep hills of Busan, South Korea, stands a striking example of how vibrant colors and public art can transform a community. Known as the Machu Picchu of Busan, this hillside village features an intricate maze of narrow streets and alleys lined with brightly painted homes that seem to tumble down the mountain. The history of Gamcheon dates back to the 1920s and 30s when it was originally developed to house the working class away from the port, yet still close enough to provide labor. Following the Korean War, the area became home to around 800 families who moved in and contributed to the growth of an ascetic religious community called Taegukdo. For decades, Gamcheon struggled with poverty, poor infrastructure, and substandard living conditions. This village was originally built with wooden houses, expanded over time as families grew and constructed multi-level homes. That changed in 2009 when the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism initiated a public art project aimed at rejuvenating the area. The goal was not only to restore and enhance the physical structure of the village, but to incorporate art that would breathe new life into its streets. The decision to paint the houses in vibrant colors was part of a broader effort to make the village visually appealing and inviting to tourists. The bold, bright hues reflect the lively spirit in the region and the resilience of its people, marking the transformation from a place of poverty to a dynamic cultural center. The use of color, combined with a variety of art installations such as bird sculptures, playful Murakami-like figures, and painted fish that guide visitors through the alleyways, adds to the village's charm, and it creates a whimsical, almost dreamlike atmosphere. The weather of Busan, with its humid summers and mild winters, also did play a role in the village's appearance. The regional coastal climate contributes to the fading paints over time, which means the community has to periodically update the colors to maintain the vibrant look. Since the renovation project, Gamcheon has become one of Busan's most popular tourist destinations. The influx has brought both opportunities and challenges. While many residents have embraced those changes, some have opted to move away, with about 300 houses sitting vacant as of 2015. However, the village continues to evolve, with abandoned homes being repurposed as art galleries, museums, and shops. The village now hosts cultural events, including exhibitions and performances that celebrate the region's heritage and its creativity. The colors and art here are not only drawing tourists, but it's also a reminder of the village's resilience and the role that art plays in transforming communities. Number 4. Jodhpur, India. Jodhpur, often referred to as the Blue City, stands as a striking city in India. It's located in the northwestern state of Rajasthan. This historic city features a unique landscape dominated by blue-painted houses, creating a sea of indigo across the desert terrain. Traditionally, blue was used to mark the homes of the Brahmin community, the priests and intellectuals of the caste system in India. In the 15th century, when Jodhpur was founded, the Brahmins chose to paint their homes blue to indicate their social status and to separate themselves from other communities. This cultural tradition, however, didn't remain exclusive to the Brahmins for long. As the practice spread, non-Brahmins began adopting the color, leading to the widespread indigo hue that now defines the city. Apart from its cultural roots, though, the color blue serves a practical function. The city is situated on the edge of the Thar Desert, where the summer heat can be intense, with temperatures soaring over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The blue paint contains a mix of limestone and copper sulfate, which not only helps to keep the homes cool by reflecting sunlight, but also repels insects, particularly termites. The reflective properties of the blue paint help maintain a more comfortable temperature inside the homes during the summer months, making it an efficient solution for residents. The practice of painting houses blue in Jodhpur has also become a symbol of the city's identity. While the tradition began with the Brahmins, it's since been embraced by many other communities within the city. Today, the sight of these blue homes continues to draw tourists from around the world, offering a glimpse into the rich heritage of this region. In addition to their aesthetic and functional value, the blue houses of Jodhpur reflect a long-standing connection to local customs. The pigment used in the blue paint comes from natural sources such as indigo plants and minerals found in the region. This not only ties the color to the local landscape, but it also highlights the community's reliance on indigenous resources for both practical and cultural purposes. Number 3. Paraty, Brazil. Paraty in Brazil is a vibrant town that stands out for its striking colonial architecture. Its buildings, primarily whitewashed, are adorned with colorful trims in shades of blue, green, yellow, and occasionally red. This distinctive look is not just an aesthetic choice, but a reflection of the Portuguese heritage in this town. The whitewashed facades were a common feature of Portuguese colonial architecture, as they symbolized both cleanliness and purity. Over time, these neutral exteriors were accented with bright contrasting trim colors, including blues, greens, yellows, each carrying its own meaning. The Portuguese colonists and their descendants utilized vibrant hues for practical reasons, such as making the buildings stand out and highlighting important architectural features like windows and doors. While the colors did serve a practical purpose, they do tie into the region's culture. Blue, for instance, became a prominent color due to its association with the Virgin Mary and other religious symbols, which were central to Portuguese Catholicism. The use of blue is also thought to have a symbolic significance, representing calmness and tranquility, which may reflect the serene natural environment surrounding the town. Green, on the other hand, was commonly associated with wealth and prosperity, which may have been used to signify the importance of a particular family or building. Yellow, often linked to gold during the colonial era, was a reflection of the town's role in the lucrative sugar and gold trade. The region's tropical climate, with the humidity and the rainfall, also influenced the choice of colors. Bright colors not only helped with visibility during frequent foggy days, but also allowed for easier maintenance. As did the vibrant trims, they hid dirt and the effects of weathering, keeping the buildings looking fresh. Here in the city, the preservation of the colonial-era architecture has been ongoing, and the color-coded buildings are part of this effort. The historic center of the town has remained largely unchanged for over 250 years, and the use of these bright colors continues to reflect its cultural roots. Today, the historic center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, in part because of the integrity of its colonial-era architecture. The area, with its bright doorways and windows framed in blue, green, and yellow, invites visitors to step into the past and connect with the cultural forces that shape the town. The colors also continue to serve as a symbol of the community's pride and reverence for their heritage. Number 2. Mykonos, Greece. Mykonos is a beloved island in Greece's Cyclades group. It's renowned for its whitewashed buildings with striking blue accents. The contrast between these two colors has become a symbol of the island, drawing visitors from across the world to experience its beauty. The buildings were originally constructed with a dark stone, a material that was abundant in the region but also highly absorbent of sunlight. Now, this posed a challenge during the summer months when temperatures could soar, making the interior of the stone houses uncomfortably hot. To counter this, the locals began painting their homes with whitewash, a simple and cost-effective solution that helped reflect the harsh sunlight. Whitewash is a mixture of water, salt, and limestone, and was widely accessible and inexpensive. Over time, the tradition of whitewashing houses became ingrained in their culture, with white walls providing not only relief from the heat, but also contributing to the island's bright, clean aesthetic. They used leftover blue paint from their boats, which was made from a mixture of limestone and a blue cleaning agent called loolaki. This color was easy to produce and inexpensive, and it quickly became a signature of Mykonos' architectural style. The choice of blue was more than just a practical one, it was symbolic. The color echoed the deep blue of the surrounding sea and the sky, both integral to the island's identity. Green, another color used here in Mykonos, was historically associated with the island's farmers, underscoring the link between color and occupation. During the cholera outbreak of 1938, the Greek government mandated the use of whitewash across the islands as a health measure. Lime, a key ingredient in the whitewash, acted as a disinfectant, helping to prevent the spread of disease. This law, though born out of necessity, solidified the blue color scheme as the standard in Mykonos. The tradition continued even after the law was lifted, as the colors had become symbolic of their identity. In 1967, during Greece's military dictatorship, the color scheme again was formalized as a patriotic measure. The blue and white of the buildings mirrored the colors of the Greek flag, reinforcing a sense of national pride and unity. Today, although the regulations are more relaxed, the color scheme remains a defining feature of the landscape, attracting millions of people who come to experience the unique atmosphere of Mykonos. But beyond the practical and cultural reasons, the blue and white color scheme has become a major draw for tourists. The colors evoke a sense of serenity and a timeless beauty that perfectly complemented by the island's natural beauty. Its sparkling beaches, clear skies, and brilliant sunlight. The simplicity and consistency of the color palette make Mykonos one of the most visually recognizable destinations in the world. Number 1. Bo-Kaap, South Africa. Bo-Kaap, a district of Cape Town in South Africa, stands out for its vibrant and colorful homes, which are deeply rooted in the area's history. Situated on the slopes of Signal Hill, Bo-Kaap is an example of Malay culture and the struggles faced by its residents. The brightly painted houses, which line narrow cobblestone streets, are not just a feast for the eyes. They tell the story of a community's fight for freedom and its determination to preserve its identity. Historically, the area was known as the Malay Quarter, a name that referred to the descendants of enslaved people brought to the Cape by the Dutch in the 16th and 17th centuries. These individuals, mostly from Malaysia, Indonesia, and various parts of Africa, were forced into servitude. Yet over time, they formed a distinct community marked by strong Muslim traditions. When apartheid laws were enacted in 1950, Bo-Kaap became a designated area for Muslims, further segregating them from the rest of Cape Town. It was during this period of racial segregation that the area began to be transformed with the bright, bold colors that are so characteristic today. The colors served as a form of personal and communal identity, with each shade carrying its own significance. The tradition of painting houses in vivid hues was also linked to cultural and religious celebrations, including Eid, a time of joy and festivity for the Muslim community. The houses, once simple structures, became a visual representation of the community's pride in their heritage. The colors are striking. Bright pinks, blues, yellows, greens, and purples create a patchwork of shades that spill over one another. This colorful landscape is not merely decorative, it is deeply connected to the history of the area and the way in which the local population coped with the challenges they faced. However, the colors are not only a response to the geography, they are also an expression of the culture and social struggles. Since the end of apartheid in 1994, the area has experienced an influx of wealthier, non-Muslim residents, driven in by the neighborhood's popularity and picturesque qualities. This transformation has sparked debates about preserving the cultural identity of Bo-Kaap, preventing it from becoming just another trendy district for outsiders. Despite the challenges, the local activists have worked to maintain the area's unique character, and efforts to limit the number of non-Muslim property owners in Bo-Kaap have had some success. The colorful houses here are not just a visual spectacle, they represent a community's history, struggles, and triumphs. The neighborhood, which continues to be a symbol of Cape Malay culture, faces both challenges and opportunities as it navigates the pressure of modern development. For now, though, the colors remain a proud reminder of the resilience of the people who call Bo-Kaap home. Thanks for exploring with me, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.